The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I see some people populated into here, so we'll just take one moment to make sure everybody can log in successfully. You should be muted as you come in, so don't worry about the sounds around you. If you need to make that last second run to the grab a snack or a pop or whatever you might need to do, you can do so right now. We'll start up here in one moment. I just see some more people coming in, so hang tight for a little bit as we begin here. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully everything's loading up okay. If you're just joining us right now, you should see on your control panel handouts. There's going to be two handouts, and one's going to be a attendance sheet, and the other one's going to be a certificate. So make sure you grab those handouts today. If not, they will be available on the ACCSC website soon thereafter. And so you can grab it then if you can't grab it now. But if you want to take a moment while we start up here, there should be the understanding how to work with a diverse group of learners in the classroom doc, and there should be a Webinar 1 certificate doc in the handout section. So let's jump in that handout section. If you have any questions, you can feel free to throw them into the question area in the chat, and I'll try to get to some of those questions here. And so I see some more people populated in, so we'll hang tight just for a moment. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully everything's loading up A-okay for you. You should be muted when you come in, so don't worry about the sounds around you. So if you want to just double check your speakers, double check your headset, that'd be great. Hopefully you can hear the sound. You should be hearing some sound right now. And we'll begin here shortly. Just give me one moment and we'll begin. All right, looks like we're a couple minutes past the hour here, so we'll just hang tight for one more minute. I just want to make sure everybody can get in here on time. If you're just joining us, I see some people just joining us at this moment. There is the handout section on your control panel. On the control panel, you can definitely grab the Webinar 1 certificate. If you're joining us in a group, you can grab that certificate, add the names into that certificate, and save those or print those out and put those into the faculty folder. There's also the document, so if you need to keep attendance here, you can throw this into your attendance, and you should be okay getting into the attendance. And hopefully you can see the screen okay. We should be on the first slide here, and it's going to be how to work with diverse learners. The first webinar in our series here, and so we'll begin here in one moment. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully you get to give ideas back and forth here. I'll definitely present and try to share some great ideas that I've gathered myself as an educator and ones that I've run into and spoke with in different arenas and different conferences and whatnot. But you guys have a lot of great ideas too. So definitely use that chat, and you can throw in some questions and ideas in the chat. I will try to save everything in the chat window. That way we can share some things afterwards, and I'll work with Chris to get some ideas out to you guys. If I know there's a lot of good ideas out there, so I'll just save that chat, pick out some ideas, and we can have that as a supplemental to the webinar. So I'm going to just start up here. So if you are joining us, I appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. We'll start with the first one here, and this is how to work with diverse learners. This is the first one in a series that we'll be giving. We got another one coming up later in the week, and we got some more in the upcoming week as well. So hopefully you can sign up today and sign up for the future ones, and we should be A-okay. So as we begin here, I just want to share with everyone that we can definitely, take advantage of our student population today. And so what we'll start off with today is just how to work with diverse learners, so the different types of learners in our classroom, and we'll kind of build off of this presentation into the future ones. Now, you don't have to attend this one to understand the next one, so if you have a colleague that's going to miss this one, or if you can't make it to the next one, all these things will be shared on the ACCSC website, so you can always come back to these presentations and recordings, and we'll be able to share these with you guys. The other thing I want to let you know too is that these don't go in. Don't have to go in order. You can pick and choose which one you want to go to. You can see the second one without seeing the first one, and hopefully you get some great knowledge out of this. So let's just begin here. So as you join us today, I just want to say, if you are, let's say, if you're a baby boomer, you could take out your pen, probably one of those probably nice Dr. Grip ones in your notebook. And who am I kidding? You probably already have it out already, and you got prepared a couple minutes before and got your coffee mug out in front of you and everything. If you're a Gen Xer, you could turn on your tablet that you might have near you, or you could have your laptop, move my screen off to the side and open up your note-taking app of choice. And if you're a millennial, you probably just popped in here. You may be watching this on your iPhone or a tablet device as well. And if you need to, you can borrow a piece of paper, maybe to that baby boomer sitting next to you or near you in your classroom. Anyway, you get the idea here. And in our classrooms today, we have a mixed cohort of students who grow up or growing up in different generations. You may have heard of these groups before. And so I want to share a couple of those with you today and see how we can take advantage of the different types of generations that are happening in our classrooms today. So generations are students in our classroom. What can we do to help the different generations? So I think what we can do is, before we can understand how to help them, let's try to join in and see what these different generations are. So first up on the list is going to be the baby boomers. These are the people born from 1940 to 1964. And this generation is significant because they are the ones returning to our schools. They're making up our non-traditional student profile. Now, this group is composed of individuals who are, looking for a pivot in their job or career for one reason or another. Perhaps they were laid off or they had to switch jobs. They wanted to try something new. Or maybe it was a working mother, but now, he or she has time to pursue an education. Next up is the Gen Xers. That's from 1965 to 1979. This group of individuals has a group of characteristics of being, skilled in technology. The first time, when the tech boom happened, they were in their infancy. Although they did not always grow up into it. So if you think about the internet stuff, that happened later on in their lives. So they weren't always surrounded with technology, but it was a big factor in their life. They're also known to be resourceful, and this resourcefulness is seen, in and out of that technology area. And this group is also known to have a desire for work-life balance. The third group on our list here is the millennials, and that's from about 1980, 1981 to 2004. This generation is also known as Generation Y. And then that first group with technology being a huge part of their lives, or it's a fast growing part of their lives. This is where we see more reliance on technology, a group that has grown up with social networks and a preference to multitask. So these are the millennial group. Last up, we have Generation Z. These are like the babies. I always I always see the years here, and I think, man, I'm getting old here. But these are not so much the babies, but these are the Generation Zs, about 2004 up into the current year. Um, you know, this group is important because I think it's the next. Well, it is the next up and comer group for us. So these groups have had technology ingrained in their lives, and they've had almost an over reliance on it, where millennials have grown up with it. This over reliance on technology happens in this Gen Z area. So when they want things to work well in the classroom because they're using technology, they hate to see it fail. They hate to have something mess up when they're using technology. So you want to make sure you can give a clean, nice, reliable experience for them. So, if I'm thinking about me fumbling around with the projector or trying to press the right buttons, having issues with my clickers not working or something, that's going to perturb them more than others, just because they want technology, they grew up with it, they know it works, and they just think it should work seamlessly. So at the same time, this is a diverse group of students. So this is where the diversity is spreading more and more, and this is prevalent in this population. The Gen Z had a population growth of Hispanics and people with Asian descent, um, and there has been a huge growing of people who identify themselves as more than one race. So there's biracial; they identify themselves as biracial, and this rose starting the millennial generation, but is very prevalent in Gen Z. And so when you look at Gen Z, it looks really close to the millennials, but at the same time, it's a little bit different. I would say the Gen Z students are less risky. Their underage drinking stats have dropped. Not wearing a seatbelt stats have dropped from millennials to Gen Z. They're being more private, where millennials are all about sharing everything. Gen Z is a little bit more attuned to privacy. And I think of moving from Facebook to the Snapchat, where Snapchat, you can share things and it's gone after a little bit, where Facebook and other things are up there forever. There's this turn in that arena between the millennials and Gen Z. So these are the general group characteristics. And I just want to note that the time periods can be slightly different. So if you've seen these in different times, these are just kind of the ballpark of the times, especially when you look at millennials and Gen Z. You might see that time go a little bit up from 2004, a little bit back from 2004. But just know that the Gen Z, in my mind, are the students that are going to be graduating high school right now. They're entering into the career college field, looking to pursue their career, and they're just coming in the admissions door. So that is the general generalization or generations of students in our classrooms. So let's focus on the millennials in our classroom. So what can we do to help our millennials in the classroom? I think this is the a big chunk that's going to be in our class right now. And it may be, you may see this growth a little bit. You've already might have seen this growth in millennials. We have a lot of millennials in our classrooms, in our lab settings today. And you might see it maybe leveling off. You might see it go up a little bit. But I think it's important to take a look at the millennials specifically as we look at the generations. So as we look at them, there's a couple characteristics I just want to point out just because it will affect the teaching and learning that happens in our classrooms. And first is their preference of choice. And this means millennials prefer a variety of active learning methods in our classroom. You may have even noticed firsthand, when they're not interested in something, their attention quickly goes somewhere else. So here's the good news. The things that millennials like in our classrooms, they're actually good teaching strategies and good techniques. So, as we reflect on our own classrooms, you think less emphasis on that on the stage lectures where you're just in front of the class speaking and they're all listening. Maybe you're looking at increasing the use of multimedia. You're offering collaborative learning experiences and opportunities with their classmates. And you're thinking about hitting those kinesthetic, those auditorial, those visual and read-write modalities, because sometimes that's going to be attuned right to the millennials. And guess what? It's great teaching strategies. It's great things to have in our classrooms anyway. So it's like a good thing that they actually prefer this choice. They prefer different types of learning and changes. So it's not just a long 1 hour, 45 minute, 3 hour lecture with no input whatsoever. Now, second up is their need for relevance. Now, think about the millennials and growing up in the information age. Information is not impressive to them. They can Google or do an internet search for much of the information we're going to impart on them. So how can we be unique and offer something of value, something of relevance to them? And how can we make them say, this is going to be important? So what we must do is we must move our focus away from just straight imparting of information to basically helping students apply the information. And this means connecting our course content to today's current culture, today's current workforce, so it seems relevant to them. So it's asking like the why, and it actually goes along with our career prep and our career management department of always looping in the eye on the prize and saying, why is this important today? It's relevant today, what we're doing today, because of, and how this may apply to the job, why this is important in the real world today. Now, along the same lines of relevance is this desire for rationale. I have a 3-year-old, and this point makes me think of the famous comeback. She has everything that I say is why. And if you've had a child of 2 to 3 years old, 4 years old, you probably get the same thing. Why? It's like I ask a question or I say something, a statement, and it's why. And it just leads me to this huge, long conversation I have about explaining and verifying and having this rationale for everything I say. Now, the because I said so phrase that was imparted on me growing up is not going to cut it here for the millennials. At least it's not going to cut it effectively. And so in general, millennials will comply with, classroom rooms, labs, and procedures. They'll respect the classroom environment by the explanation or the justification, the logic, the reasoning behind policies. So I think it's important as we start up our classes is to think if we have a lot of millennials, we may have to expand and emphasize our rationale a little bit of why we do things. So that is going to be the rationale. So let's jump over to the second column here and think about the prefer informal learning. So the prefer informal learning is more or less um, the learning that's going to happen, in a non like strict environment. And so what they prefer is kind of this less formal educational setting. They appreciate interest shown from teachers who have to act like the instructor and an authority figure in the classroom, but also kind of show interest to them. So you get to know them more, be interested in things that are happening to them outside of the classroom. And so the more interested we show to them, the more interest they show to learning. And so that's a general statement about the millennials and how we can maybe help them when they prefer this informal learning environment. Now, this intertwines with this next point of rapport. They want this rapport. This is along the lines of that informal learning. So millennials are relational and they build they build upon this relation early on into their educational careers. It's going to continue into the career college stage here. So what I like to do here is I try to jump the gun a little bit and try to help with this rapport. And I print out my rosters. For me, I'm very bad with names, memorizing names and remembering names. So I'll get my rosters. I will have photos if it's in your student information system, so I can have the photos so I know what they look like. Um, I will force them to sit in alphabetical order for the first week just so I can learn their names quicker. And I tell them, I said, hey, helps me out because some people do not like having assigned seating, but I said this is for my benefit, and they usually go along with it for a couple days, and then I can memorize their names. So these are ways that I can establish rapport. And I try to just to be, if I see them in the hallway in the student lounge, just ask them how their day is going, and talking with my admissions representatives who really know a lot of information about them because they learn all this information through that admissions process. So having meetings, whether it's formally or informally, and talking with admission reps, you're going to get a lot of great information to help you establish rapport with your millennial students. And this could, again, go beyond the millennial students as well. Now, last, I did want to mention that millennials, do prefer to multitask, and I think this is pretty common knowledge. And they have these, short bursts of attentions, basically. But I think there's a misconception that millennials are multitaskers and they're automatically good at it. But when you look at it, and some of the studies have shown that when a majority of people multitask, whether it's millennials or not, they lose this efficiency. And so there's really a term, and it's coined super taskers. And these people are the ones that were deemed that they could indeed multitask and they could be inefficient. The downside to this is it's only about 2% of the population can be these super taskers. So with numbers like that, we have to understand that they do like to multitask, but they may lose efficiency somewhat. And so it's going to be in our best interest in our classrooms to, you know, keep them busy, but have them avoid different things and different multitasking as things can get lost. And you probably already know that they'll have to multitask not only stuff in your classroom, but they're multitasking, their academic world, their family world, their work world, and so on. So we have to be cognizant of this multitasking, even though they can handle it and they try to. Not all of them are actually good at it. So it's developing things like a pre-plan, a schedule that you kind of almost force upon them every Monday. We would meet in class and we would have a pre-plan. Okay, this is what's laid out in the syllabus. This is what's laid out in the calendar. How are you going to plan your week to accomplish the goals? As you see, there's a test, on Thursday. There's homework that's due on Wednesday. Work in your own time and see when is the best time to get things done. When can you get things done at home? Where do you may have to go, to the library, to a friend's house, to use a computer, to print out something, or maybe to get help. And so it's like helping them along so they can successfully multitask because even though they like it and they do it, they lose this efficiency. Now, as we pivot a little bit, I do want to bring up some of these other generations and kind of hit some of these online and hybrid courses. I know some of us who are joining us may offer online courses or they have some type of hybrid course. And so when you're looking at generations, I'm just going to go in general terms here of younger and older students. So older students may resist technology more. And this is important for the online or hybrid courses because it might take them a little bit longer to get acclimated to using the website, the learning management system. And so things like providing an opportunity for them to learn at their own pace, whether it is the orientation is maybe a practice course, or there is a practice course, so they can learn how to download things, upload things. They'll learn the navigation, the menus. That's all going to help these older students who are going to be hesitant for technology, but they're really taking advantage of the opportunities we give with our online courses where they can work from home. They may have a job, and so they can balance now academics and a job with this online availability for courses. But again, they may resist technology more. So you have to kind of pay close attention and see if you could help them. I had a student or I had a teacher who helped her students by doing a learning preference survey that maybe some of you have already done, but she throws in a couple questions about the online environment. Have you ever uploaded files before? You know, have you ever posted in discussion boards or used a wiki before? And this kind of gives her a temperature of what her class makeup is going to be like, and where, if maybe she might have to supply some extra instruction, some extra video that kind of helps with this, how to upload assignment, how to download assignment, how to make a discussion post and so on. And she kind of keep an eye on some of these students and making sure they are succeeding and they are logging in regularly. So I thought that was a great idea for these online and hybrid courses. Also want to make note of that older students may ask instructor technical questions. This is interesting because some of us may have instructors who lead the courses, and we may have an IT support team. Well, they may contact the instructor for everything just because that's a familiar face. They're used to having the instructor be the end all be all who's in charge of the classroom, whether it's on ground or online. And so just note that you may get assistance needed just to the instructor, so you'll have to delegate that in a manner where the student can be helped if the instructor doesn't know. I myself try to be privy to FAQs. We try to develop FAQs for our technical support team, and then they share those with the instructors because if it's something relatively simple, I could help them answer that myself, and it saves them from email. I have to email them back and say contact technical support, or I have to email technical support and relay the message, and they have to get back to the student. It cuts out an unnecessary step if I can help them out a little bit. The online school that I teach at currently offers a kind of like a Meet the Team page. And it's very nice because our students could go in and look at everybody who's on our team, whether they are IT support, all the instructors, the administrators, and there's a picture. For example, there's a picture of myself and a bio about myself that has some things that I like outside of school. It has a picture of myself and my family, so it makes me more relatable. It goes back to the rapport stuff, but it also helps them establish an entity. So when they're emailing technical support, they're emailing the instructor or administrator. It's just not just a name; it puts a face to the name, and I think that helps out a lot. Now, older students may prefer teacher-centric videos. I think this is important because some of us, and myself included, we have courses where we have basically like what we're doing today is the screen sharing. And so you don't actually get to see me. But if I wanted to, and if we had the bandwidth, I could turn on my video camera. And some people prefer. So think about this right now. Would you prefer if I can flip on a camera and you can see me standing in front of the computer, sitting in front of the computer, you can see my hand movements, you can see me talking, you can look me in the eyes and stuff. Does that resonate better with you? Well, it does for some of our older students. And so it's just important to reflect back and see what kind of videos we offer and see if we do have a nice mix of teacher-centric and maybe screen-centric videos. And if your population is more towards the older students and you have this online or hybrid course, it's maybe using those teacher-centric videos a little bit more than usual. Now, on the other end, we got younger students, and they prefer video content more. So whenever there's a chance you can offer video content, this is going to be important for online and hybrid, but I also think it's important when you have your on-ground courses because you can do this flipping the classroom where we have teachers record kind of how-tos, helpful tips and strategy videos, and they post those on the teacher website and their own websites. And so if you have a student who comes into your course, during the day, they go and work in the afternoon, they might not get to their homework into the evening. Well, if they run into a roadblock on their homework, they're going to get stuck until the next day they can see you. Or they can log on to your website and use these videos that you can provide with them, record with them, upload to YouTube, or maybe a service that you have at your own school that you can use, and share these videos where students are not going to be, run into a hurdle or basically a roadblock at home. They could have you, and you extend outside of the classroom now. Another thing is that younger students, we mentioned this quickly, is they don't want errors, they don't want issues. So you have to be uh, very diligent in making sure your online content works very well. You want to make sure you have some time for instructors to review their course. You do some weekly review, or not weekly reviews. You can do weekly reviews, but maybe semester reviews or session reviews where you check on the links, you check on the content, make sure this everything works. You click on everything, just make sure it opens up as it should, documents download as it should. And just being aware that when they get new versions of Microsoft Office, whether it's Office 365, Office 2012 or whatever it is, you want to make sure that documents that you provide to them, whether it's worksheets or informational documents, they still load up A-OK in the different browsers they have, in the different programs they have. You also want to make note of that the younger generations may need, or they like to find the quickest answer possible. So what this entails is that providing questions that are easily, I can just basically copy the question, paste it into a Google search, and get answers. That's not going to do anybody any service, any great service. So you want to think back to your courses, and again, this can be on ground as well. Is think about what type of questions do I offer as homework or discussion activities, and are these easily found, or do the students need to have their own critical thinking skills and offer their own input, base the answer off of their own experiences? And so just reflecting back and looking at how can we generate questions that aren't just the simple, get to the answer real quickly, copy and paste, search, and be done with it. So I think that's interesting for the online and hybrid students. Now, as we wrap up generations, I do want to mention Generation Z. So these are the up-and-comers that we may see trickling in right now into our admissions department and coming into our classrooms. There was a couple studies done, and there's been articles written about them, and there's a consensus is that these students have relayed through surveys and informal questionnaires and stuff of that. They feel pressure to get an early career, so I think that's great for us because we have that opportunity that we can offer them. At the same time, their preference is to be more entrepreneurial in nature, and so I think it's taken advantage of this opportunity meeting their expectations, and kind of, whether it's through marketing or through our explanation of our services, is to really hit home and say, because we have a lot of great things that happen. The students, the salaries that they get at a lot of our majors are fantastic. That's what they're looking for, and they in some of our majors and our fields of study offer this flexibility where they can have this balance in life. They can get graduating quickly from our colleges and get a job quickly. So I think honing in on that message for Generation Z will be very helpful, and just keep an eye on Generation Z and see what kind of trends you notice at your schools. So I do want to take a moment to pause right here and offer a question, and you can answer this in the chat as well, or jot it down on your notebook or your tablet, or whatever you might be taking notes on. Is generations in your classroom, what populations do you see? Because I know we're all different. Maybe we do see an influx of millennials. Maybe at the type of school that I offer, it's mostly the non-traditional, maybe older students. And once you identify that population, think about what can we do to maybe adopt strategies to tweak some things in our classroom or at our school to help these type of learners, whether it's the baby boomers, whether it's Generation X or Generation Y or Generation Z. It's thinking about these type of generations and seeing what can we do to, again, hone in on these general characteristics of these students and see what we can do to help them out in our classrooms, because they're all going to be a little bit different, and we can do things that we talked about, whether it's giving options, it's appealing to video or appealing to teacher-centric videos, whatever it might be. Jot down a couple things and see what things can you change today? What things can you change next time the course is run? What are some of the easy things? And start from there and then develop some more difficult ones. So just again, take a moment, think about that. We'll take a look here. Let me see if there's anything in the chat that I can see that there's any questions. That's a good one. I got one. I got a question sent in here. It says, "What about Generation X?" We kind of focused on each side of the spectrum, and that's actually a great question. So, like what I did here, they're often the overlooked generation. They're the in-betweeners. You think about them; they are just right in between for everything. When you look at some of the stats and numbers for the baby boomers, they're always in the middle. They're not quite on the one end of the spectrum for baby boomers. They're not so quite on the other end of the spectrum for the millennials. So, for example, when I was looking up some information for another presentation, I came across it was like these charts, these graphs between the different generations, and the Generation X were always in the middle. So they would ask questions like, how would you describe your generation? And they would ask the people in the generation. And the baby boomers, like the top one was like, we are hardworking. It's our work ethic. And millennials, they said it's our tech use, and that was the top percent. And so the numbers were like, somewhere around like say 20% of the responses. They always said it was tech for the millennials. It was almost 20% for we work. It's our work ethic. Well, when they asked Generation X the same questions, they actually listed the one from the millennials and one from the baby boomers. They said number one was their tech use, number two was their work ethic, but it wasn't at 20%. It was like at 11 and 12. So again, it's always right in the middle. So today I just wanted to focus on each end of the spectrum because I think it's important because they require maybe more of the pivot in our teaching strategies. And so I think that's just a good idea. And keeping the Generation X in mind, because again, maybe we see a lot of Generation X and we want to maybe do some extra research in the Generation X category to see what kind of learners they are. And again, you might see maybe more of the Generation X baby boomers, maybe you see Generation X millennials, and that's your pocket of students at your school. Good question. Thank you so much. All right, so let me just move along here as we approach almost the halfway point here. We're looking at multi-level students, and what are multi-level students? Um, and what is multi-level instruction, I think? And basically, this allows you to deliver, standards-based instructions, which I think we're all attuned to. We all have our core standards and our weekly standards in our syllabus and in our classes. And it's allowing to deliver these standards-based instructions to the entire class, but when appropriate and when available, it's responding to any students who may require, instruction or assistance below or beyond the current learning task or the current teaching level that we offer. I never run into a class where every student was on the same level. And teaching on ground and online is, never happens. There's always different levels of the spectrum of these, high or low or medium type of learners who just get it, who don't get it. And so it's, trying to teach to everybody here. So we might see these below level students, and these are students that, struggle to keep up with instructions for one reason or another. You might see these students who need extra time in your classes. You might see where they need, they're relying on their peers more to be successful. They're always asking their peers for questions or for clarification. They're asking you for clarification. Just note that these students may have, just pay attention and see if they have low self-esteem. They might have this mentality of, I can't do this. Whether that was instilled upon them during their high school years or at a different college or university, they might have this low self-esteem, this I can't do this attitude. And so it's you want to change that in your classroom. These students, I think, are at risk because they are often ones who become frustrated with their learning. They blame themselves for the learning, and they have this perceived inability to grasp it. And they think this is like learning's concrete. Like, no, they don't get it today, they're never going to get it. So it's keeping an eye on those below levels students. Now we have the at level students, and there might be a decent part of your own classroom today who are students who are doing very well with their current level of instruction or progressing and being challenged appropriately, and everything's going great. They're grasping the materials, they're applying it. It looks like they're successful at on different assessments, and they're not too high, they're not too low, they're just perfect. They're moving along nicely. And then the opposite of the low level, of course, is the above level. And these are students that seem just to get it, on a snap, boom, they get it more quickly than their classmates. But at the same time, these students are at risk because they become frustrated as well. They're frustrated with us as teachers for not providing more challenging content. They're kind of twiddling their thumbs. And what happens is when these above level students get bored, they can lead to being disruptive in the classroom while they're waiting for other students to catch up, or while they are just, they get the material so quickly, boom, they're done, and now they're just figuring out something to do, and they're going to go, talk or bother other students, or do things that will disrupt the class. So what can we do with this multi-level learning by using multi-level instruction? So here on the screen is three, I think, teacher responsibilities in general that I think we can focus on for hitting these multi-level students. So these can help us lay the foundation of multi-level instruction, which will help with these multi-level students. Now, we probably already use this trio to some extent, so that's why I say I like this as the foundation to our lesson planning, the foundation for meeting our objectives and helping the students. But just to take a closer look quickly is looking at content. You look at content, you want to look at the knowledge, the concept, and the skills students need to learn. And we can see this by our course and weekly objectives. So this is the stuff that students need to learn so they can get their certification, they can get their degree, their diploma, their certificate, and move on to bigger and better things. The process is another one, and the process is this centers around making sense of the content. They take what they know, what they don't know, and we try to help them make sense of these of the content. And last up is the process, and the process here is, I think I went backwards. What did I do? Oh, sorry. The process here is offer, or the products is offering options and choices, and having this feeling of autonomy, where they don't have this rigid way of doing things. They have the options of showing off of what they learn, and showing, I get it, and giving them the options and choices at this product level. I think this is where we can this is what some of the low hanging fruit that we can do for the product, because these are ways we can sculpt our activities, our projects, our tests, so our students can apply the concepts and maybe even extend what he or she has learned. So that's great. We have the three things. What can we do for implementation as a teacher or instructor or faculty member? What can we do to help with each one of these areas? So this leads us back to the question, how can we teach everybody at the same time, but also hit the individual again? Now, I think overall what we can do, and what most of us do, is kind of teach to the middle, and then we could assign different appropriate level tasks to the multi-level learners in our classrooms. So let's start with content. With content, it's about knowing your learners. So you can see how this ties into some of the things we talked about earlier. So possibly during a pre-assessment, you can discover the learning preference or types of students that you have in your class. This can be done by a learning style survey. I use the VARK survey specifically, so you can see if they are visual, auditory, read, write, or a kinesthetic learner. And that helps, sculpt the materials and how I can present it to them, so I can see the content and maybe how I can show them the content. I think of it, it's like the film room before the big game, basically. Teams go in, they study the film before they actually go out for the game. And in similar fashion, I think it's important to look at our students and study our students and learn their preferences, learn who they are before we actually go out and teach. Which is our big game every day in the classroom. So I think offering methods like videos, which we talked about before, having reading strategies and different types of readings. I know it's been difficult personally to get students to read all the time. So it's developing ways to help them grasp the concept in their textbook, to offer maybe some information or some guided notes to help them grasp the concepts maybe early on in class. It's sculpting your lectures, so we know that we can do it in compare and contrast style. Maybe it's just more informative. Maybe it's just for a short time, a long time. It just depends, and you have to know your learner preference to do this different type of content. It's like using graphic organizers. We talked about the VARC. If you have a visual group of students, showing charts and graphs and visuals and doing demonstrations, that's going to be a huge thing for content to kind of show them the content. And that leads us on to process. So process is a great point where we can kind of break from the teaching to the middle and get these students individually. And once you figure out methods that you can engage your certain type of learners, then it's just having more tools in your toolbox, your teacher toolbox, so you can help impart this knowledge so they can grasp this knowledge in different ways. And this can be done by situations where you can break students off into smaller groups, allowing you to act as a guide, and you could jump from group to group and the group to different individuals. You can do this by think pair sharing, where you could have students think individually first, share with an individual next to them, beside them, and then maybe share as a whole class. You can do collaborative groups as well, where they work in small groups, and that allows you to go to different tables, go to different parts of the room, kind of take a step back and look at the individual learners, and you kind of see who's getting it, who's participating, who's not, who looks like they're lost, who's not lost, and kind of help those individual students, those smaller groups that way. You can do journal writings. I know instructors who do journal writings kind of do a reflective thing of, what was the most important thing you learned today? What did you struggle with? And they do this every day. So at the end of every class, they have this journal writing assignment. The teacher grabs it, and he would just go through and look at it. And that way he knew how to prepare the first maybe 10 minutes of the course tomorrow to recap, to review, or to maybe focus on a certain area. So I thought that was very, very a nice thing to do in that process. Another thing which I found successful from talking to different faculty members is workstations. So workstations, and you might do this already in your lab, but you could do this in the classroom as well, is have these small groups and do different workstations. There's different tasks at different stations. And you can have the different tasks be different things that have to be accomplished for your greater course objective or for that overall weekly objective. And so if you're in a lab setting, they might be doing different types of procedures, different types of things. Maybe some of them are in the lab and some of them are working on some type of other activity, whether it's textbook based or worksheet based or whatever. And you can have these different workstations. Again, these workstations allow you to jump from small group to small group to individual and help these students out. So having that process and having ways to see the individual, to see the smaller group, so you can hit those ones that are going above, or the students that are going a little bit below the level of learning, this can help you out as well. Now, to finalize things out here for number 3 is the product. And again, this is where I think we commonly see differentiated instruction at. This is where we can give more than one option in completing a project. I think having a clear directions, clear criteria or rubric in a lot of cases is going to help students complete the activity, but maybe do it in their own way. Some teachers I have talked to, they say they leave a choice called own choice with approval, which is kind of cool. So they maybe give a couple ways that they can finish the assignment or this activity, but they always leave one with their own choice with approval, because you never know when you get that student who just has this great idea and you don't want to squash an idea. Because that may lead to him or her learning a little bit better. And if they share it with the class, if it's class project, the other students are going to learn a little bit better too, because it's a different way of learning things. So I thought that was interesting. So these are the 3 multi-level implementations. You could do things for content, you could do things for process, whether you can kind of see them individually, or do things through the product, through the assessment. How can we vary our activities a little bit to hopefully hit the learning styles, hit the way where we can have students learn in their own way and display it in their own way. Now, with all this said, there's something I like to follow and a guide I like to give some of my faculty members I worked with before is called the hourglass structure. And this is, if you take a look at the hourglass, you get the big top, the wide top, and that is a whole class setting. So I like to think of the first part of class, the first 5, 10, 15 minutes is a reflection instruction period where they reflect on what they did yesterday. You kind of talk about and give them a short lecture. You give them instructions about what we're going to learn today. And so that's to the whole class. And you can work your way down towards the middle where you can do those individual group work or those smaller group, those individualized projects where it allows you to maneuver around the classroom and see the individual learning that's happening instead of on the grander scale where if you're lecturing, people are just nodding their head or it looks like everybody's getting it. We could actually see it as they apply it into some activity, into some group work in the middle. With your guidance, you could see some of this learning take place or maybe not taking place. And then at the end of the class, we go back out as a whole and we recap. What did we learn today? Maybe there's a presentation, maybe there's a short quiz at the end, a reflection period, and then possibly a review of like what's coming up for tomorrow. So we can link all this knowledge together. So it's just not chunked out, today we only learn about this and it has nothing to do with the stuff we learn about tomorrow. So having this hourglass structure, I think is going to be very helpful in getting you in the right path to maybe doing some of those things on the previous screen. If you're kind of lost and it's kind of overwhelming, what can we do, as a first step? Try the hourglass thing. Meet at the class, do some kind of short activity at the beginning to get them going and get them interested, some attention getter, some lecture after that. Do these small group assignments, these fun activities that hit the different learning styles that allows you to go and hit the different individuals, different groups, and then come back wide as a class and then kind of recap and have people share their experiences, share their knowledge, and then look to tomorrow to see what else we can do. So that is the second part of our diverse learning type of students is the low, the kind of the on track, middle, and the high learning students. And those are some things that we can do to hopefully engage them in our classroom and maybe jumpstart some type of procedure or strategy that we can implement and maybe tweaks that we can do in our classroom. So as we let's take a quick pause right here just to catch our breaths and if you're taking some notes just to kind of catch up a little bit. And some of the questions I like to pose to you and have you think about are ways that you engage your high-level students. What do you do to engage your high-level students? So what happens when you get those people who just get it so quickly? What can we do, or what do you do currently maybe in your lab, in your classroom to help with these high-level students? And on the opposite end of the spectrum, what can we do to help with our low-level students, the ones who just quite get in it for one reason or another? And these aren't always the same students. A student may be able to grasp one type of topic one week, but then the next week they stumble across something. Maybe it's working with numbers or something that and they usually are okay, but then all of a sudden they hit a roadblock with numbers. Now, even with all these things that we can do, what issues still crop up? And so again, ask yourself these questions and kind of answer these, and you can kind of help yourself look at ways that you can tweak your classroom to make it even better to reach the diverse learners in your classroom who have these different skill levels, these different learning abilities. So a couple questions coming through, and one was like talking about using the lab, and that's using that lab setting is, as they said, was a way where what you mentioned before, you can hit the individual student that way. It's a great way to do things. I know instructors who work in the lab environment, like in the medical desk, the dental, the cosmetology students, massage therapy and stuff like that. A lot of them, are the hands-on type workers. They work in practice like in a lab-like setting. Um, what the teacher tries to do, in my experience, is you want to engage the entire team while avoiding teaching to the lowest person in the group. So what you want to do is you teach that middle, and what the teacher tries to do is they seek opportunities to talk one-on-one with the learners. So it's like breaking out, like I said, to those workstations. Maybe it is doing demonstrations and it's people demonstrating. You can talk to the other groups who are just watching the demonstration and helping the others along. Again, if you get good rapport, you probably know who are your star students, and so you could have them lead a demo and have the other students watch. Not only yourself, but but your star student, for example. And so those are great ways to get involved with everybody, but also at the same time hit these different types of learners. And some of that pre-assessment thing I've seen come across is that just sharing that pre-assessment, like what are your goals for working in this course in this lab, and maybe it's like I can't do blood pressure. I'm really struggling, and this is my goal is to do a successful blood pressure procedure or something, whatever it might be. You might find that out in a pre-assessment, just a simple asking the question for a pre-assessment quiz that you give or a pre-assessment survey that you give at the beginning of your class, or something that you do at the beginning of the week. Those like pre surveys that you give, or those those things you give out like on Monday, for example, to plan out the entire week. What hurdles do you see that you may face this week? And they look and they're like, oh man, I'm going to do this procedure. I don't know if I can do this, or I was having trouble, understanding this concept. So they might write that out, explicitly, and you might be able to see that as an instructor. So those are good examples. Now to conclude here, I did want to do a quick hitter on support systems. And so from personal experience, I've seen students who have great support systems. They have family and friends who are their cheerleaders. They help them out when they need to watch the kids, lend out the car, borrow money, for example. And on the opposite end, we have students who are basically doing it alone. They have no cheerleaders. They're the only person in their family trying to climb out of their current situation. And as they're climbing out, people are pulling them back down. And you may see this too in some of your student populations. And it's really a struggle for them and to try to get out of the situation they're in. It's their families have been in the situation, their friends are in the situation, and they're the only ones doing something about it proactively by coming to your school, enrolling into a program and trying to graduate. But at the same time, they're not getting that support some other students said. So I think it's important to recognize these different types of support systems as we go into our different classes, and we get different types of students all the time who enroll on an ongoing basis. So there's different types of support systems, and at the schools that I've been part of, it's been a goal to be a fun school. It's a goal to be a school that people feel proud of being at, and we have a goal of having the school being a safe place to learn. And so those are always some of those main things I have in mind when I think about support systems. Personally, we have cookouts. Food's always good. Spirit weeks like high school, where we dress up in our Super Bowl week. We dress up in our Super Bowl teams, or at the start of NFL season or NCAA season, we dress up in our jerseys or our team colors. We have events where family and friends are invited to have fun, inexpensive time. So we have different festivals that we have on our school grounds. We're fortunate enough to have an area where we can set up different types of outdoor games that we can play for tickets. We've rented a dunk tank so you could dunk your instructors and administrative members, which is always a big hit. We also do things with for their families as well, because we want to support the students and their families. We have a Santa that comes down, and we take pictures free of charge, post them up on our Facebook profile, share them at the school. Same thing with the Easter Bunny. A lot of our students in our area are working mothers or working fathers, and they have children they're trying to take care of as well. And that's the reason why they're in the school, to support their kids and have their kids look up to them. And so we want, to help them out a little bit. And so we offer free of charge of these photos, which is great, because I know I've been down to the local mall this past holiday season, and it's an arm and a leg to get one photo with my kid sitting on Santa's lap. So I think that's types of things that we can be a support system for these students, because there are these three different types of support systems that you may recognize. And I wanted to share these three different types because it could help us identify some of the pros and cons that may come out of this. This is from a book that I came across, and it was called Connecting in College, How Friendship Networks Matter for Academic and Social Success. So it was really interesting because, obviously having friends and family members help in a social setting, but also helps academically, also hurts academically too, depending on your friends. But they gave out three different types, and one was the ball of yarn type of support system. And this is a tight knit, what they call family. It could be in family, but it could be friends who are like family. Think of a tight knit. Their connections are like a ball of yarn. It's very all centered around each other. Everybody's friends and family with one another. And so this is like that tight knit group. The great thing about this is they have a great support system to help them overcome hurdles. At the same time, if they're tight knit of family and quote unquote family and friends are actually people that drag them down, then we have to worry about that. So the great thing is you can do is just kind of pay attention to hallway or pre-talk, class talk, the chat that goes down, developing that rapport that we mentioned before with your students to figure out if they're in a pull up or pull down situation. And that might help you with these different types of students who are in this ball of the yarn type of support system. The second type is the bow tie. these students, they kind of break out and they compartmentalize, into two or more different types of friends. So, there might be their school friends and their work friends. It might be, their academic friends and, friends from high school. There are two different groups, two or more different types of groups. One is usually more social. One is more, supportive than the other. Not say supportive, but more academic and understands the goals for academics than one another. And so it's just figuring out, which one is at play here. And again, it's keeping your ears and eyes open for your students individually, so you can see when one group of friends might be a deterrent, one group of friends might be the helpful hand they need, and and then your school and yourself being in that group that's going to pull them up to help them. And so that's why I think it's important to not only think of ourselves as helpers individually, but as the school as a helper too, and create, and be part of that ball of yarn and be part of this group, of this bow tie group, one part of the bow tie group that can really help the students. And the last one is the hub and spoke. And these are what I call individualized friendships. These are students that have a lot of different friends, just one or two friends in different parts. They don't have big clumps of friends. They have one close friend here and one close friend there, and that's great, and it's very helpful because it can really help the students who need a helping hand. But again, at the same time, if you have a friend or two friends or three friends who for whatever reason are not friends anymore, who become distant, then you're going to see in a student that person feeling maybe more depressed or looking more depressed in school. Their grades will drop. You can kind of see this thing happening in your school where they are one way and maybe they're getting A's and B's, and all of a sudden they're C and B students, they're C and D students, and it's taking a look and saying, if you can identify their types of friendships they have at school, or maybe getting to know them and what kind of friendships and family members and supports they have outside of school, you might identify a student as the hub and spoke system, and you can be wary of if it only takes one or two friends to really hurt an individual who has this hub and spoke relationship. So overall, family and friends are definitely great, but in our career college industry, it could help expand options for students to get to know one another. So I always, again, try to offer group activities, and I try to divide up groups in different ways. Have our group functions. If you're an administrator, or even if you're part of the faculty, you can try to help with this group function and maybe promote some group activities. And that's what students like. They come to our schools because we have that rapport, that camaraderie with one another. And they like that because, if they didn't want that so much, they would just go to a university or a different type of school. But we can offer that personalized touch, that support system that they need. So as we conclude here, just think about, what can we do to be more supportive in our schools? Do we have tutors? Do we have, can we do events maybe more often? Can we volunteer? Can we, do different things inside our school? Be part of, an organization. What can we do individually? What can we do maybe bigger as a school? And what's the first step in the process? Because sometimes these are bigger things to do, but what's the first step? Is it going to your campus president? Is it meeting in the faculty meeting and discussing maybe options that we can do? And so those are the questions you want to look at. I'll field some questions here, but we're nearing the end of the hour here, so I do want to give some time. If there is something that pops into your mind, definitely send me an email. I am david.grimes@siena.com. I like to think myself as your extended faculty member. If you have a question, I know sometimes I go to a seminar or a webinar and I'm good to go, and then later in that day, something just pops in my head. I'm like, I wish I could ask that question. I wish I asked that question in a chat. Definitely send me an email afterwards. I'll be more than happy to help you out in any way possible. If you go to siena.com as well, my information is going to be on there too. But I'm part of the professional development and curriculum building. There's another department if you're interested for accreditation consulting and software development. We do student learning systems, student information systems, and stuff like that. Pretty good, cool group of people I work with. So I always like to offer. If you're ever interested in those type of things, definitely send me an email, or somebody at the website an email. We'll be more than happy to work with you. It's always a nice thing to jump in and help, fellow educators. I am a career college educator myself. I started out as an adjunct and went into a technical director. I was an academic dean, academic director, and so on and stuff like that. So, and most of my schools have been here in the Midwest, but I understand what happens behind the scenes, behind the curtains. I also been on the front lines, like a lot of you guys there. So That's what we pride ourselves in, is having people part of the business and helping other people in the business as well. So definitely, keep my email handy. And again, if you check out the handout section at the bottom, they do have the certificate there, and they also have the attendance sheet there. And you can also check us out at the ACCSC website. We will save the recording, and I'll work with Chris to make sure we get the information up there. I'll try to put up a copy of my presentation available on the website as well. I think it's nice to have this. If you want a little bit sooner, if you're itching to share it with somebody, send me an email, david.grimes@santa.com. I will send you a copy of my presentation in PDF form. Keynote today. I could try to save it in PowerPoint if you're a PC person, but I'll make sure you get a copy in one way or another. That way you can share it with others. Definitely check us out. We do have professional development opportunities and courses that you can visit. So if there was one particular section that you liked about the presentation that you wish you could expand more on, if you go to Sina.com, we do have a group of courses that you can take. Some of them are by myself. So if you're not tired of me yet, you can take some of these courses for professional development, earn some credit towards your professional development portfolio. And there's all kinds of cool courses, like with your teacher toolbox, with admissions, career management, helping students graduate, and having some soft skills, anywhere from being a leader in the classroom and maybe a leader at the school. We have some administrative stuff too. So appreciate you guys joining me today. Thanks for coming for this webinar. Again, if you take a look in the bottom there are those handouts, and if you kind of keep an eye on the ACCSC website, we will have information at the website for not only this webinar, where we'll have some of the handouts and the certificates and the presentation, but there's going to be also signups for the upcoming webinars that we have upcoming here in a couple days and 2 days here and a couple next week. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully we could go 4 for 4 with all these webinars that we have. I'd love to have you guys back, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your late morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at, and joining me today and trying to help our students, our diverse population of students, by looking at the generations, looking at the multi-level students, and taking a look at their support systems and trying to make sure we can be a central part of that support system for the student. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time today. Have a fantastic day, and I will hopefully see some of you guys, or virtually see some of you guys, in the near future here. Thank you, and just want to thank ACCSC for hosting this webinar for all of us today. I see some people sticking around. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you to the people who said thank you. Again, I'll stick around here for a little bit longer, just in case you want to type out a question. You can type out a question, send it privately. You can also send me an email later on. I'll have my emails open today. I'll make sure I can check my email. I think I saw a couple people post in here at the same time, saying for certificates and a copy of the presentation. I'll make sure you guys get it out. If you email me, I'll give you one specifically. And if you can wait a little bit, I will make sure Chris gets it so he can put it up on the ACCSC website as well. I just want to make sure I have everything on here, and it looks like everything was good for the presentation. I'll make sure I save you guys, and I see a couple people emailing me at this moment. So thank you so much. This gives me a nice, good excuse to take it easy this afternoon and help you guys out. I appreciate you guys coming along, and thank you so much for joining me today. And let me see if I can help anybody out here. Yeah, my email, let me just go back to my slide here. My email is david.grimes, so I could do this. Let me just put it in the chat here. So you can copy and paste it. I'll send it to all. So david.grimes at Cyanna, CYANNA.com. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madeline. Handouts, if you haven't seen the handouts, they are at the very, it's on your GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting control panel. On your control panel, there should be a section called handouts. And I see on my screen, it's handouts, and it says 2 of 5. I can put 5 things on there. There should be the certificate. which you can edit. It's a Word document, so you can put in, if you were just yourself, put your name on there. Obviously, if you're with a group of people watching on the big screen or huddling around in an office, you can print out multiple copies, or just copy and paste the different certificates in a document and create different documents for everybody. So hopefully you can get that okay. And your certificate you get right away. I mean, you could print that out. So I have a couple people asking for a certificate. Definitely check out that very bottom for the handouts there. You should be able to download that in a Word file. And if not, reach out to me. I'll make sure you get it. If you can't get it or you can't download it for some reason, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to reach out to you today, and try to get it before the end of the day. I'm on the East Coast time, so I'll get it to you here in the next couple hours. And I will make sure you have that certificate if you still need it. So, if you need the presentation, you need a certificate, you need any handouts or something like that, just let me know in an email. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. But if not, if you're still on here, you can look at the handout section, and there should be two documents. There are a Word document. I see a docx file, which is a Word document file. If you click on those, you should be able to download those. So hopefully that helps out. And there is that certificate, and there is the attendance sheet down there. So thank you so much. You guys are such a nice crowd today. I got a lot of thank yous. Have a good day as well. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a good question. I have someone, and I'll expand on this when I can afterwards, in case everybody's not on here. But when you have this adult learning population not progressing as expected, it's finding out that root cause, obviously, right? And it's trying to figure out why are they not progressing as expected, and it's finding that root cause, and it's looking back at some of those generational things and seeing if there is a gap or there's something that maybe is kind of obvious if you kind of take a step back and reflect. Where if you're, I think for me, if I'm working in the weeds every day, it's tough to have to kind of take some time at the end of the day, reflect back, or at the end of the class. Sometimes at the end of class, I look back and go, okay, I had a group of students who struggled. Why did they struggle? And trying to offer that reflection time. I don't know if this happens all the time because we are in a busy environment, but I do try to at least do a self-assessment if your school doesn't do one formally, is look back and see my successfulness techniques that I tried to do, some of the hurdles that I ran into, and seeing what I can do to help out and change the situation. Sometimes it's the feeling of belonging for adult students. If they're the only one, it's really getting to know that student and helping them out, spending some time before or afterwards, and just talking to them, grabbing. Sometimes I just grab a Coke with them if I see them in the lounge because they're sticking around working on stuff, and just talk to them and see like, hey, you're struggling here, or maybe I just informally I just talk about how are things going. They might open up, and that's just building that rapport. Just trying to see them again. If for an older student, they respect that teacher. If you're a younger teacher, though, you might have to work on it a little bit tougher. I know I have been the younger. This is the younger teacher before, so it is making sure that I am almost over emphasizing my experience and stuff. I'll wear jeans on dress down day and stuff, but I try to dress up a lot and be respectful, use respectful language, and be formal with those type of students as much as possible. Because even though the millennial students like this informal learning, it might be where your adult students like this formalized learning. They're used to a certain way, and it's finding that certain way. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll look into that more, especially with that science course. Science courses are not progressing well as expected was the question I saw come across. That's an interesting one, and seeing maybe what part of that science program is given the slip up. Is it in general, or is it maybe a certain topic? Yeah, thank you. Language barriers. That's a great one. ESL students, definitely send me an email. I love to talk about that. I could do a presentation just on language barriers. That's super important, and it's one of those barriers. And so if you send me an email, I think I see in there Maria. Definitely send me a reminder, Maria. I'd definitely like to talk with you outside of the presentation if you're still around. If not, I will hunt you down and I'll email you because that's a great idea. Again, certificate at the very bottom of the GoToWebinar control panel. It will be on the ACCSC website. If you had trouble, if you have to bolt right now and you can't get to it, it should be it. You should be able to type your name in there. Again, if you have any trouble, hunt me down. I will be more than happy to help out. I can try to edit it on my side. I'll be more than happy to help. That's a good one. Deborah has a good one. It's the Mr. Know It All in there. Um, yeah, it's a balance of their self esteem, but you don't want them to. You need to tone it down. Um, it is. It's tough because you don't want to say, put your hand down or stop talking, let others do their thing, because you don't want them to flip and go on the negative side of things. That's a very good question about what you can do for the Mister or Ms. Know It Alls in your group. And it depends on your rapport. If for me, I had one in one of my classes before, and I just talked to that person. I said, I appreciate you helping out and always, giving your opinion. I think it's very important. But I go at the same time, I want to make sure everybody else gets it. And so if I can have other people maybe speak up too, you could help me out. I asked them, you'd be doing me a favor to helping me out. Now I had this rapport with this student because I worked in a small field in computers before, so we had a good click going in our group, and we were all respectful of one another, and the students were respectful of me, and I was of the students. So I was able to do that one on one. It's also instilling policies and procedures in your course, where if someone's blurting it out, maybe there's policies and procedures where you just say, everybody needs a turn. You want to make sure you call on somebody. It's giving time, which is also important, is giving this pause time. I call it pause time before questions. If I ask a question in class, I always pause where it just seems a little bit abnormally long, which usually it's not, before you seek answers. And again, my policy is like, please don't speak up in class. I try to, and I'll say, and again, it's not just because it's for the millennial. If it's a millennial student, it's because when you're working in a work environment, sometimes you just can't blurt out stuff in a meeting. You have to take your turns, know when to jump in, know when to raise your hand or whatnot. And so I try to work in my policies as, I'm mimicking the work environment. I want to get you used to it today, so it's easy breezy when you go out in the field. So I try to do that with some of my students, especially those millennial students. Again, it's giving them the reason, the rationale. Why can't I just why can't I just blurt out the answer as much as I want to know? And I don't know what the exact situation is, but again, if you want to reach out and maybe expand on that, I'd be more than happy to talk with you about the different ways we can help with the Mr. or Mrs. Know It All. A lot of good questions here. If you're still sticking around, I appreciate you sticking around. I'll have to. I don't know if I'll get booted off here soon, but I'll keep going. Um, Good. I have another. That's a good question, and that's happened before. The high level students, they don't want more than the low level students. Like, why do I have to do this thing? They don't seem to be happy with the minimum. Um, that's a good question. The high level students don't want to do more than the low level students. So what can you do? Um, it is I'll say disguise it. But when I offer opportunities in my classroom, say different workstations or different questions, I have a couple lessons where I like to do the flip charts or the big poster board, the tablet or easel types of papers I put up and hang up on my wall, and so the students have to answer a question and stuff like that. And I might put some of my students who I know who go above and beyond, who get it quickly. I might give them a little bit more difficult question than my other students, and it's not a blatant obvious. It's not that's way more difficult than spell your name is the one flip chart. But I know which ones require a little more critical thinking skill. I think I know ones that maybe have to think out of the box, and so I try to provide ones that can maybe challenge them more, and those type of students. So I look at ways where I can challenge them in a situation where I'm not like, oh yeah, you're all done, because you're a star student. You have to do what they think is extra work. Well, it's not extra work, and sometimes it's I try to get them involved in some of my demonstrations where they can help me out. I use them as a person who can feel important for the class, who may rise up in a leadership role. Again, I got to talk to them. Sometimes in the workplace you will have, it's one thing doing your job well, but it's another thing, rising up to the occasion and being a leader in the workplace. And so I ask them if they can be a leader in my classroom. And sometimes just simple asking. Sometimes it's kind of figuring out, what kind of activities I can challenge them. If they're in a group, I might make them the group leader, and they have to kind of organize it all and challenge them a little bit more. So just different ways to think about it. Those are just a couple ones I have at the top of my head, but it's a good question. If anybody else has any things, I'd love you to share. high level students as tutors for the lower levels. That's a great idea. We have that too. I was really surprised at the willingness for students to be a tutor or to say, we had open time in our media center where we have our computers and our libraries like all one place, and students would volunteer to help students out. It was great, and it looked good because they liked it because I said, what you can do is you can say you were a tutor, you were a college tutor at the school, and you put that in a resume, and that's a resume builder, and so that helped as well. So that's a great idea. High level students as tutors. Thank you. I think that was Jay. Give Jay credit on there. Certificates from the mobile app and the classroom document. That's a great idea. I actually don't know. I was trying to log on to my through the app, but I could not log in through the app. I think we ran our maximum. So I will. I'm not sure, but if you're still on, definitely shoot me an email or check out the ACCSC website soon. They will get a certificate up there. If not, email me. I'll make sure you get a certificate very soon. Um, Yep, and so there's a sign-in sheet down there. I just want to make sure everybody is, if you're still on, there is the sign-in sheet and the certificate at the very bottom. And so they call them handouts. It's not like handouts like I'm giving a lecture and then here's a handout of notes and stuff. It's just handouts of what you can pick up. So it's like I put the certificate on my virtual desk and I put a sign-in sheet for ones that need it in the virtual desk. So if you can jump in there and grab it, hopefully you can see it. Millennial. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, and that's Dennis brings up a good point. I just want to follow up on is that he sees millennials not liking alternative assignments. It's basically just tell me what to do and I'll do it kind of attitude, and that's good because again, when we talk about generations, I'm using a broad paintbrush here, and again, you're going to have different uh, um, different things you see in your classroom. If you see that, then don't offer it. Sometimes it is choice. I think it's the I think of it as with my group of friends of where to go out to eat. It's impossible when we leave it super wide open, right? We want to go to eat pizza. We want to get Chinese. We want Mexican, food. We want to go eat American food, or we want sit down. We want carry out. And before you know it, hours pass. We're no longer into it. What I like to do is say, all right, with my family, pick two places you want to go. Pizza and this, and at least it's down to two, and so it's a little bit easier. Now, sometimes we just need somebody to be in charge and say, you know what, today we're going to we're going to eat Papa John's pizza today, and that's what it is. So if your students are in that, you get that feeling for them, you could always do an alternative. And if they gripe and moan, then you can alter your future assignments to say, you know what, just pick one. Or you can have it where I have faculty members do a pick one. This is the quote unquote main assignment. If you want to do an alternative one, you're more than welcome to come see me after class or, just start your alternative one. But this is the one that we're going to do. And so like you're kind of giving people the choice who want a choice. If you have this, uh, uh, like this group of students who like it and the group of students who don't like it, you still give them the option to do that. So I thought that was a good idea. Yeah, Melissa generally have some work experience after high school and attempted studies at other colleges. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so they're already trying it out and they come back. And some people see more Gen X and millennials. Yeah, that was, what? When I first started, I saw a lot of Gen X students, and then I just saw this increase in millennial students personally in my neck of the woods. So it's like, so for me, I really focus on the millennial students, and for you, if you see more Gen X or you see more baby boomers in your field of work or your type of school, then definitely, I would love to, just focus on one type of generation and go way deep into it. I mean, that could be four presentations right there. But definitely, if you have some time or if you can expand on some of that stuff, jump in and see some of the courses that we've done. We've done generational students at our Santa courses. At the same time, there's a lot of great content on the web. If you just do Students Generation X, you'll see a lot of great information out there. Not to start you in the most generic place ever, but there's a lot of good stuff out there that you can definitely take advantage of. Gen X and millennials in the same classroom and having different ones in the same classroom, it's a good question too. What you can do is, either have different options or the different styles where if you have millennials who prefer use of technology, you can have that technology available at the same time, you're available as the main instructor person for maybe the baby boomers. And it's taking a look at the preferences of the generation, look at your classroom and seeing if those kind of match up quite well with your population of students. Because again, like we just talked about the other one, the other person saw millennials and actually don't like choice. They actually just say, tell me what to do and let me do it. Um, that is a good question about like how do you get both, and that's the key. How do you teach to everybody? And I think it's just using different learning styles, different again building up. I call it building up your teacher toolbox, and then having the tools ready at your teacher tool belt. Because there's a lot of things that I like to try in my tool, like my toolbox at home. There's tools that I buy or get as gifts, and they just sit there. But man, they're awesome. When that one time I need them, I can pull out of that box and use it. At the same time, I always have like the hammer and the screwdrivers and stuff handy because those are the things I use most often. So it's like having the different types of teaching strategies, the different types of things you can do in the classroom to help out those students who are Gen X, who are millennials, who may be baby boomers as well, and trying to help them at the same time. 8% Gen X. See, it's interesting. I like how we're different. A lot of people Gen X said. Dennis said 8% Gen X. I like that. PowerPoint resume be sent to my email for documentation purposes. Sure, you can send that to just send me an email. I'll send it right to you. No problem. Let's see. Let's see. Got more questions. I'm trying to hit all the questions, but since I have people staying on, I'm losing my voice for some reason. All right. Oh, that's a good question. I want to give credit to Jay if he's still on here again, just in case. Jay, it's a good question. It says expectations of teaching styles because of the middle school and high school and what they're taught. So yeah, it's I think I think it's interesting because at least in my experience, my admissions reps had experience with the local high school, so I kind of got an idea of what our high schools were like in our area. So it's like and then just from talking with students, you get kind of get the pulse of what's going on. You know what kind of ways that they are taught, and that's where they develop these kind of good habits or bad habits, or this mentality of they can't do it. For high schools that don't really promote our type of students or really encourage them. At the same time, students who are exposed to technology, different teaching methods, this one-on-one time, they're going to come to expect it when they come to our career colleges as well. So yeah, I think it is. I think it's like taking that landscape of our high schools and they probably bring on a lot of I mean, and their habits, right? They've been doing the same thing for at least 4 years and in high school, maybe even more through middle school, and they're coming to college with these habits, good or bad. And it's it might be our part too to offer these student success type of strategy courses, either during orientation or a formal course, and kind of showing them explicitly these are some reading strategies, these are some writing strategies, note-taking strategies, memorization with mnemonic devices and stuff. Some of these I think just get overlooked, unfortunately, and it's again in our limited amount of time with them is to really do this as a class, or maybe do this with individuals. Either do a tutoring session, they come meet me at my office or my office hours, or they find me wandering the halls. Sometimes I'll just work in my classroom. I have an open classroom. I might work in there. I might come in, and I always open my door and leave it open, and so people always pop in and find me. So yeah, it's a good thing. I think it is. I think it is being taught. So that's a great one. I did, Kevin, and anybody else who's on there. I did see the conference got full, so I don't know what the deal is, but I will check with the powers that be at ACCSC and see what we can do about maybe opening up to even larger. If you're still on here, just tell them that we will have the recording for them. I apologize for the inconvenience of not being able to view it today at the designated time, but we'll make sure that they get to view it as soon as possible at their own leisure. And you can kind of give them the Cliff Notes version in the meantime. And I don't know what happened there. I got a couple emails too. All right, I think that's everything, and I'm about reaching the half hour after the scheduled time, so I'll probably get the boot here in a little bit. I appreciate you guys joining me today, and if you stuck around afterwards for the Q&A here, I appreciate you spending even extra time with me. I will definitely check my email. I see in my inbox growing up a little bit. This is great. If you again, you need a copy of the presentation. It is in the handouts. It will be on the ACCSC website, but at the same time, I will make sure you have a copy as well. I will definitely click and download the webinar certificate and that attendance sheet in the handout section, and hopefully you can check that out in there as well. But if not, I will definitely shoot you an email with that certificate. I'll be more than happy to, if you had trouble editing or something, I'll be more than happy to try to edit the name in there, or whatever else you need. If you have any additional questions after I sign off, definitely send me something, and I'll be in touch with you. I'll be more than happy to do a one-on-one, or give you a call, or just do an email back and forth. And again, if you have a situation that arises between now, next week, 2 months from now, whatever it might be, please think of me as an extended faculty member who, I think we're all on the same page with the same goals of trying to help our students succeed, not only academically but in their future careers. So, with that said, I will bid you adieu. I will hopefully see a lot of you in the next session coming up here on Thursday. Hopefully, we could open up the floodgates a little bit more so everybody can join. But if not, I do apologize for the ones that could not join. And if you are part of that group, let them know that we will make the presentation available after we are finished here. It is being recorded, so we can share the recording, and we can have it available on the ACCSC website for you guys to view at your own time. I do apologize. I don't know what happened, and I don't really control the behind the scenes settings, but I don't know if something went up or we just reached our max. I knew we had a full house coming in, so I do apologize if we reached that max and they couldn't sign in. But thank you for those that showed up, and I will hopefully talk to you guys later. Thank you, and have a fantastic Tuesday.